This conference will now be recorded.
All right. So how's everybody doing? I got a lot of light on my face because I've got a door open, the sun's shining in it. So you'll have to excuse me if it looks like I'm made of some weird light. So
Doing well. I processed my first 10 cups this week, and the
okay,
Rotary done great, and worked out great.
good, awesome. That's good. So yeah, once you get that thing set up, especially if you're pumping out a bunch of them, you just pop in that next cup and hit the button and go to town. So it's a pretty smooth workflow.
We had all the family over, and they found the box of sample uh, that I got from JDS, and they
Hmm.
all picked out colors, so I fixed them all one up, and that was great.
Awesome. That's cool. Yeah, I finally found a use for my laser. My daughter works at Starbucks. She's going to school and working at Starbucks part time, and they used to write on their name tags. They're anodized, and they used to write on them with some sort of paint pen, and it would always come off. So I started engraving their names on there now. So I've got me a little side gig going with that now. So it's kind of neat.
I still been too chicken to try a tumbler
Yeah,
yet. I'm just worried about burning them or, screwing them, throwing them away.
yeah, yeah. I usually just stick to those little 20 ounce. I get mine on Amazon though, so I haven't ever tried any of the JDS mugs. I know they're made specific to, for lasering. So I don't know if they're a lot better than getting like an Ozark Trail or something. I haven't played with a bunch of different ones. I know the color matters, and the brand does matter. The thickness changes and the composition of the pigments and stuff like that can affect it. So
I just need to look at some settings that other people have had success with and try to run them. I kept hoping you would since we got the same laser. So I could just cheat with your settings.
yeah, I don't get to experiment very much. So
Yeah, and Jim, what I've done is if you look at a lot of people who put settings out there and you go in and equalize them to watts, right, rather than percentage, right? So if you took a 100-watt laser, 50% power was 50 watts, you go equalize, everyone's almost the same, right? It takes the same amount of power at the same speed to burn through it consistently. So you'll find very little difference in people that are getting good consistent results on their settings.
Okay, so just basically take just about anybody's settings and break them down to what would be relative to yours.
Yep. Yeah,
Okay.
and I think it works on a lot of stuff. You find someone that's got a 100-watt laser that's doing stuff well. Take like Chris Lacasio and his photos, right? His 100-watt laser and speed and power there, you can translate that across to an 80-watt or a 130-watt and just scale it up or down.
Believe it or not, I actually got brave and was working on photos today. That is a pain.
yeah, it can be.
Like, where's
So
I don't even know where the stack's at. I
yeah.
was trying to do something for my
Oh,
grandson. That's the latest one. I don't know if you can even see it. That's what I ended up with.
well, it doesn't look like a piece of like a charcoal briquette, so it looks pretty good to me.
What are you engraving on there, Jim?
Just birch, Baltic birch.
Are you doing any prep before, or it's just plain wood?
Just saying.
Okay. Yeah. Look
If
at
I
look at look at doing a little bit of I think it's a baking soda with water, and you spray a light mist over it, and it'll change that color dramatically. It's a lot darker.
Yeah, I
Hmm.
had a lot darker in a couple of them.
Yeah, yeah, a lot darker in a good way though, right? Rather
I
than
just couldn't
burn
get
up.
the problem was I was running into is it's well, my daughter and son-in-law, they own a baseball team, traveling baseball team. They had professional photography done, so I have good images to pull off of. But the problem was is the way that the sun was hitting with the shading of the bill of the hat on the eyes was making it a nightmare just to try to get that lightened up so you could pull in that without blowing out everything else. and then the hat is white, so it was making it hard.
I have a question. So if you're doing the baking, I saw someone else do that, said that too. Are you doing that before you engrave or after you engrave to enhance it?
Before you engrave and let it dry, right? So what I normally do is I set it and I go outside in the sun and set it and just hit it with a light mist, and within 10 minutes or so it's dry, and then go run it.
Is it like a 50-50 mix of water and baking soda?
No, it's something like 28 ounces and 2 teaspoons or something. Yeah, it's very little.
Gotcha.
Yeah, look at Chris's Chris Lucasio from House of Lasers. He's got a video, and I followed whatever he put, and I've not run through that one spray bottle yet, so I've not had to touch it in a while. But yeah, it makes a big difference. What I have seen is you want to make sure you do get like a real fine mist on it, right? You don't want to soak it too much, or what you will notice is it'll yellow your wood a little bit if you get it too wet. So you don't want it the yellow color on it.
Yeah, I ended up making something for my granddaughter, so then I felt guilty. I had to make something for my grandson. My daughter's going to put them on their doors.
Hmm. Has anybody tried the Kenny hack where you dissolve the steel wool and use rust?
I'd done it or tried it on my little diode laser previously. I tend to make a bit more of a mess. It was a lot of extra work.
Yeah.
A lot of that's going to depend on the tannins in the wood, because even using that as an old school darkening method for aging a lot of different woods, the only ones that it really works well on is your high tannin woods, which is typically your oaks. And even then, your mixture's off. It doesn't. I've never seen. I mean, granted, it's different on the laser, but it has to be almost spot on, and the tannins have to be right to get a good effect with it.
So I said I was going to say something about Aurora, and what I'm going to say is I don't have anything to say about Aurora. I think we're going to wait until I get one in hand, and we're putting together a group of people that have them to collaborate on. We want to make sure we have our ducks in a row and have some actually in stock before we pull the trigger, or we're going to get 5 bazillion calls to answers we don't know about and stuff like that. So we'd rather push it off. We're looking at fall for the Aurora to do the official launch.
So when you say getting a group of people that have them in hand, you're talking about doing a beta program? You need some people?
That's what I was going to say.
I wish we could do that, but we don't have enough in these things to even be able to warrant that. That's one reason we don't have an affiliate program. We couldn't afford it. But we don't have a lot of markup on these, believe it or not. But we're looking for people that already have a fiber, basically, to just garner some insight on. Like Chris, I think, has got one. Jason Rife's got one. Gary Wyant. There's a few people that have the fibers with the EasyCAD too, and it'll give us a good enough general idea that we can go ahead and collaborate. What we really want to know is what questions are people going to ask? What are the things that you commonly run into, so we can kind of have a bullet list and kind of at least be a little bit prepared when we get bombarded. So
Need an engineer that does CAD work all the time
to do the fiber.
Yeah, because they have an easy time flipping around CAD. My son does CAD work all the time, and him and my father-in-law, they both flip around CAD like it's nothing, and they've worked on different forms of the CAD work.
Yeah, the issue with it though is EasyCAD, even though it says CAD, is not like a AutoCAD. EasyCAD is more like a cheap Chinese knockoff of like a Adobe Illustrator or something. It's a very featureless
control software too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got all the control functions, kind of like Lightburn or RDWorks has to be used with the Ruida controller, the JCZ boards, JCP, whatever they are. Use EasyCAD 2, or some of them use EasyCAD 3, and it is a proprietary software. I consider it more like LaserDraw or something like that comes with those M2 Nano boards. But yeah, and the Odin 32. I have an Odin 22. I had an Odin 22. I have a big hole where it was, and I've got a 32 coming this way. It's going to be 60-watt RF power source, and it's bigger. It's almost got as much work area as a Nova 35. So I'm excited to see that thing because the 22 didn't take off like I thought it would. It was kind of underpowered, but we were going with, the Epilogue minis and all that stuff and ULS. A lot of people have 25 and 30 watt RF sources out there, but having a 60, I think, is going to be a game changer. So also, you guys might have seen where Aeon makes this Supernova. It's got two tubes in it. It's got a CO2 DC excited tube in it and an RF excited CO2. And that's neat. Now GWiki's doing it, which means Boss will have it out in another week or two probably. But I got with China and told them about it, and they were aware of it. And I said, hey, wouldn't it be better to have a dual source that had a fiber and a CO2 like the Epilogue Fusion? So we may be looking into a dual source that's actually a fiber and a CO2 gantry laser, like the Epilogue Fusion series, instead of doing a dual CO2. We can kind of see the fun in that, but I think it'd be a whole lot more fun with two completely different sources. So I don't know how that's going to turn out, but that's kind of where we're at right now. We're looking at it. So that'd be kind of neat. But that's all the new stuff that I have going on that's crazy or has to do with new things or things we've been waiting on. So other than logistics, but we're not going to talk about that.
Yeah, that seems to be one of the big problems, right? Is no one talks about
it
the
is.
logistics, and you get a phone call when it's on the way, right?
Yeah.
Like,
and
hey, we'll
and
be there in
we're
a couple
just as
hours.
much in the dark as everyone else. And if we could find a logistics company that would perform to the level of our expectations and the way we perform, we'd be in good shape. We'd have to get another warehouse or something probably. But yeah, unfortunately, that's terrible. I thought Grant was going to be on here for the first 30 minutes. He was going to answer some questions about that if anybody had any, but it looks like he might have gotten caught up. So
He's scared.
yeah, I don't know. There's not a whole lot we can do. Now, there's a couple of companies, and I talked with one, and it kind of fizzled out when I worked with the Copier World and things like that. There are some specialty companies that handle more technical equipment, and they're a little bit more trained as far as covering it up with blankets and securing it, and being careful of glass and things like that. And I thought about seeing if they could maybe start moving some of these because it's more of a white glove approach. But that's fizzled out so far. We're still looking at options, but we have to deal with the same logistics people that everybody else does. When we usually try to get UPS freight, but sometimes they'll farm it out to Roadrunner or Billy Bob's Wrecker Service or whoever they can get to go do it, and then that's where everything gets lost in translation. So I'm not sure exactly what we're going to do. They're starting to speed up though, to the point where people aren't getting noticed. They're just dropping them. So I guess that's better than them being across the country somewhere.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, or when they turn up and tell you, they're on their way, but they don't have the lift gate, and you need a forklift.
Right.
So that happened to someone in one of the Facebook groups recently.
Yeah, and I just don't understand it because we've been delivering these things the same way even before the USA distributorship. China was pushing them in direct, and we never had these problems. So I'm not sure if the attitude has changed or the policies, for driver safety, on the kind of things that they're allowed to make calls on, and I'm not exactly sure.
I think
putting the machine in the crate in the truck the proper way where they can get it out would be a huge plus.
Yeah.
But
basically, when I was talking with Jay, when I was getting mine stuff set up, him and I had a talk, and it was basically coming down to the point of COVID caused some of it because a lot of the smaller organizations shut down and they got bought out by mom and pops. And right now, there's basically I'll just put it like he put it, FU policy, that if they don't like what you're doing or like what you're wanting them to do, they're telling you just to F off, and they don't want nothing to do with you because there's so much business coming in right now. They don't need it or they don't care. So that was one of the biggest problems that they're dealing with out in California right now, is dealing with the companies because of what's going on with them.
Yeah, and
They
our
just don't
logistics
care.
company that we use isn't necessarily bad. I mean, ATA's been doing a good job for us, but they have to deal with those folks, just like you said. So it's deep. There's a lot of, that's a lot of dynamics in there. But
I got lucky. I mean, it's once it went, I think it came across Train, Roadrunner, and once it hit locally, I had a really good local company. The dude come out, he was a big, burly, young dude, and heck, he dropped it off of there, and he said, "Where do you want it?" I was worried about him getting down my drive. He backed down there and dropped it, and he says, "You want it in your shop?" I was like, "Yep, if it's possible." And he wheeled it right in here, and then stood here and BS with me for half an hour.
yeah, same here. And I tried to give my driver a tip, and he wouldn't accept it. So I called UPS and told him what good driver they had. So yeah.
Yeah, I need it over there. You need to hook that duck up there and wire that in. And
So,
For,
Yeah, the
for
one
anybody
I
who
good.
has experience with, like, I have a long S-turn gravel driveway. I paid a flatbed tow truck guy. He asked me for $50, and it worked out perfect. He just backed up to the back of the 18-wheeler, he raised his bed up, and the guy wheeled it right onto the flatbed, and he backed it in my garage and dumped it right where I wanted it. It was
yeah.
great. Well
Yeah.
worth the $50.
And
I
that's
gave him 7.
typically how it happens, but the ones that don't happen that way, you definitely see those pretty quick.
Yeah.
So, and with good reason. I paced for 2 weeks when mine was coming. Mine came the day before Thanksgiving, and if it had shown up on Thanksgiving, which it wouldn't have, I would have probably canceled Thanksgiving, just to play with the laser. So
I cancel Thanksgiving every year, and it doesn't seem to work out. I hate the work. The wife goes nuts with all the cooking. I'm like, just give me a piece of turkey and some stuffing, and I'm done. I'm not a
right,
big eater. So I'm like, just what's all the aggravation? She cooks for like an army, and we typically have like 4 or 5 people here, and there's enough for 30.
hmm
It's the only time of year she cooks.
Well, cool. Does anybody else have any questions? I see a few people on here. Feel free to jump in anytime you got anything. Otherwise, we'll just sit here and talk and waste time, which isn't a bad thing either. It's better than awkward silence. So,
I got a few.
Sure.
What's the best source for learning Lightburn better?
so of course their website, they've got some tutorials and all the documentation and stuff there. Robert Cofed Computer Creations has a bunch of videos. We've got a
Who's been
few
the best
up.
so far?
Yeah. Chris Lacasio has a few.
Oh, really?
Yeah, on the House of Lasers. Mhm.
Yeah, I found the
actually,
Lightburn ones.
his
Some of them are so old that I was following along trying to do stuff as I was watching the video, and then I'd get to a point and what they were explaining wasn't in my
It,
software.
it would say cut instead of line, or it'd say line instead of cut. Yeah, they changed some of that stuff. The Lightburn, some of the Lightburn videos
The
are a little
trace
old.
thing, trace again, that's not in the new version, stuff like that. So it took a while to figure that out. I'm slowly getting
Yeah.
it.
Gotcha. And then also you got your 1 hour training if you want to do a crash course,
Yeah, I just I've been holding off on that with you because I wanted to get some of more of the basic stuff done first,
Sure.
and then
So you can
let
throw
you
me
go.
all the crazy stuff. Wow, I see
I
where you're
learned
going
code
now.
editing yesterday, and it opened up like a whole new world for me.
Mhm.
Yeah, I figured I'll do mine a year from now when I get stuck on something.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the other thing, Thomas, that I found is having a project or something that you want to do, right? Rather than just aimlessly playing with it, but I want this and I want it to look like this, and then you got to go figure out how to do it, right? And then watch the videos, check the forums. There's a good forum on Lightburn's website that talks through a lot of the issues or questions. And
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
but having a
I started with
specific
that with just my logo, and then I
objective.
ended up getting 2 orders for signs, for one for a restaurant and one for a friend's lobby for a new building. So I kind of put the cart before the horse and didn't realize there was as much a learning curve as there is, but we're getting it. The videos have been, I unpacked that thing, had it all aligned. I didn't even have to look at the instructions. I watch your videos so much, Brian. It's like, I feel like I know
Are there
all you
some
guys.
instructions?
I'm looking forward to this thing.
That's the plan anyway. So
Yeah, no,
I'm
that
glad it
helped. They definitely helped. The thing I'm lacking in is light burn. Kind of
worked.
didn't play with it as much as I should have.
Yeah. Well, I've been running it for 4 years, and there's stuff in there I still don't know about. So yeah.
Well, the thing is they update it so much and add new stuff you can't ever stay on top
Yeah.
of it. Right? And I was literally trying to find a point in the in the Lightburn forum where you could go like request the new features, right? And while I was trying to do that, I found that the feature I was going to request they put in 2 versions ago, and I hadn't found it yet. I was like, nice. Yeah, it was where you could go in and set a favorite font, because once you
Oh, yeah.
start getting lots of custom fonts, and next thing you know, I'm scrolling down the font list, through 2,000 fonts, and trying to find the one. So yeah, just being able to set a favorite font was useful.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. I see Joe made it on here. How you doing, man? You got your microphone off.
How you doing, Brian?
All right, buddy. Hey, did you get that? Are you ready to try that networking thing?
Yeah, I got it. I got it, and I man, it's some hidden knowledge there. It's like you have to put you have to set up your router to a repeater.
Mm-hmm.
And once I found out what I had to do, then I just looked up how to do it, and
Awesome.
then I got it. But
Yeah.
if anyone wants to have their computer that they use their for their laser and have the internet on it as well, you have to hook that router up as a repeater, and that means that you're going to tie into your home's Wi-Fi.
Mhm.
And it's actually simple because it's like hooking up a computer to your Wi-Fi at the house.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Um,
But if you don't know,
Yeah. It
you
can
don't
be a
know.
little tricky. So that's good. So what he had going on is 2 separate networks. He had a router that he was going to hook into the laser, and then he had his main router, and they were on 2 different networks. They had created 2 different networks. So he hooked the router that I suggested. Let me pull that up as a matter of fact. And I used to use these in my other industry when I was doing IT work, and they're not. They're awesome. I guess you can. Oh, that's the wrong screen. Let me pick the right screen. How do you even pick the right screen? Why does this always happen to me? Let's see.
Don't know, but
That
that's a
doesn't look good.
sad looking crate. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I guess you saw that. That was a machine that had a little bit of damage to the top.
Yeah. At first I didn't realize what it was until I looked back again, and I was like, bifocals work.
I'll pull it back up in a minute, but this is kind of what he's talking about. And Rowita has a solution, but it's just a relabeled TP-Link. The one I use is an Asus RTN 12D, or there's newer versions now, but you can pick one of these up for $30. And they're a repeater or a wireless gaming adapter, which is basically what he turned that one into, or an actual router. So it's 3 appliances in one. So now he has his laser connected wirelessly to his network so that he can access it across the network and his other computers and devices.
So, and when you say repeater, you're talking, like an extender function. You maintain the same network,
Right.
but you just give it a new access point.
Yeah, he basically, the secondary router connects to the original access point and it mirrors it and just makes an extender. But the good thing about that particular device is the hardware LAN ports also become active. So then you can actually hardwire the laser right in.
Yep.
Does it work with Mac?
Yeah, this is a network. This is an OS independent thing. This is just your basic network topology. So yeah, I just choose this device because I used with it a lot. There's a lot of routers that will do multi things, whether it'll be a repeater or an AP or a router. This one just happens to be real easy because you can flip a switch or just push, select it, and then there's a wizard. Some of the Linksys ones, depending on which one you have, you may have to run another firmware like Tomato or some of those other firmwares to make them do some of that stuff. So this one comes out of the box that way.
Some of them that have
wireless internet. I guess it works off the cell towers, because here we have like the cable company literally installed a analog phone line for my internet when I moved out here.
Gotcha.
The
Gotcha.
T-Mobile
You've got
thing actually
mail.
works pretty good, but yeah, so I guess I could hook that apparatus up, and because that's a router basically, so I can just tie it in. Okay, cool.
You could attach it to your hotspot and then hook your laser to it and use your mobile hotspot as part of the network.
Yeah, it's not a hotspot, it's actually internet. $50
Oh,
a
okay.
month unlimited from T-Mobile, and it's like this little round tower thing, and it
Okay.
ties into the cell phone towers.
I see. And it's rebroadcasted as a Wi-Fi signal in the
Yeah,
house.
Unlimited,
That's
$50
Cellular
a month.
repeater. Okay, cool. But yeah, you could do the same thing. Now, I will caution you on the Ruida controllers. They use the UDP protocol, which if you had a handful of paperwork and data and you wanted to give it to someone else, it's the equivalent of walking up and throwing it to them and walking off and hoping they catch it. So it does not play very well sometimes with Wi-Fi. I run mine Wi-Fi. I don't have a problem. Some people do. It depends on a lot of things. I've actually found the way that Joe did it and the way I do it also to be pretty reliable. But just keep in mind that there is a disclaimer that using Wi-Fi protocol with UDP on these Ruidas can be problematic. I haven't found it to be the case, but sometimes it is.
But the information about making the address 100 numbers above what your computer is, that
Mhm.
was very helpful, because that's what I done. And you want it to be the same sort of format as your computer's address. Like if all three numbers have three numbers, you want your laser to have all three numbers to have three numbers. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Right. Yeah, you want it on the same network, and then the last octet, of course, will have to be different, for each machine. But yeah, definitely that way you can get them on the same network. And the part about assigning an IP address outside of the DHCP range is important, because if you assign your laser, it has to have a static IP address. And if another device on your network happens to be assigned that device, they'll bump heads and you'll have IP address conflicts. So I'm glad you caught that. And that'll help you from having problems if somebody brings their tablet over and goes to hook it up, and all of a sudden it grabs your IP address of your laser, and you're like, what happened? So.
But when you had mentioned, well, you had said, well, does your laptop have a Ethernet connection? I was like, no, and that's the one thing I left out. Most laptops don't have an Ethernet connection. So what you have to do is go out and get yourself this guy here.
Mhm.
It's just a dongle with a USB and a Ethernet adapter. And,
Yep.
follow the instructions from the router, and then you're all set.
Awesome. And I'll put that link to that Wi-Fi article in the chat, just in case anybody wants to check it out.
Yeah, and there's a video too, a video by Laser God.
Yeah.
Something like
Yeah,
that.
Yeah, that's actually, I think we have the same stuff. Let me see. That's the same article. I actually wrote that one for Laser Gods too, so I just copied it and put it over on Thunder's site. So
Great. Great.
I'm recycling content.
Oh, that's the easiest way to do it, fastest way. If it's good, why fix it?
Right. I tweaked it a little bit, for the Thunder stuff, because I had done that on some K40s with the cohesion board, is what I was running when I was setting that up. So,
Great.
a standoff. Okay. Jacob was asking about the HR head, the Beam Buddy. Yeah, the focal distance is, like Jeremy said, approximately 3 millimeters. So a lot of people use a quarter. And then you may want to do, and I'm going to do this at some point, and I say that every week too, and I still haven't. I'm going to do the HR test for that stuff I was doing, and do a ramp test and see if I can help determine. Has anybody done a ramp test to dial in the HR head to see if that's accurate? Because I know we have a tolerance on our heads. We say 6 millimeter, but it could be 4.5. It could be 6.5.
Yeah, I've done the ramp test on the 2-inch one, and that's why I suggested to someone last week. It may have been you, Jim, when you first.
It was.
Oh, yeah, yeah, because I did it with the acrylic that come with it, the little spacer, and been using that for a couple of months, and finally did a ramp test and realized I was like 1.5 millimeters off from optimal. So once I dialed it in there, I'm getting a lot better cuts. But now all the settings that I've amassed all need tweaking, right? But no, so when you were thinking of doing it, then Brian, are you going to do it and then use like a USB like microscope to go compare? Because even with the 2-inch, I struggled to find the optimal bit, right? And then a way to actually measure it to say, hey, because I did my ramp test and drew it, drew me 1/2-inch marks, and then down the ramp. So I say, hey, from here to here, and then I could go in and measure the height at my 9.5-inch mark or whatever, right?
Right.
But yeah, trying to actually find, so like, yep, both ends were dark and burnt, and then in the middle it was pretty thin. But yeah, finding the thinnest part even on the 2-inch lens was tricky. So trying to find it on the HR lens, I suspect is going to be a lot harder.
Yeah, I've got a scope, and I'm gonna give it a shot. I'm just gonna eyeball it, because at the end of the day, really, even doing the scanning offset adjustment when you derive your own values, how are you really going to measure that unless you use something like that? But really, if you just eyeball it, that's ultimately what it's going to come down to anyways, how it comes out visually. So I'm going to try to eyeball it and use the USB scope and hope for the best. And it's hard to do the HR lens, especially, but any of our lenses, because they're so close to the material. Doing a ramp test, even the one that's built in Lightburn, can be a little bit of a challenge just because of those tolerances. They're so close.
Yeah, and that's the thing I really like about the American Photonics lenses, right? Is whether it's the 4-inch or the 1.5-inch, the higher resolution, right? You use your AAA battery for your spacer, so you get a little bit more room there. Which for me, the most room is when you finish a job and it runs back to the origin point, and it runs over your little clips, your little hold down clips.
Mm-hmm.
Tell you what, those lenses are stronger than an 1/8-inch birch for sure. I shear them off and throw them away every time I do a job.
Well, that's one thing that Thunder's good at, is whatever gets in its way when it's moving, it'll move through it without even needing
even the honeycomb, all right.
Even the honeycomb. Yeah, we had someone else do that the other day too, so I'm not the only one. I don't feel so bad.
No, I have a very small honeycomb one. I managed to slap the e-stop quick enough, and it actually wasn't dragging the lens through the honeycomb. I had like a recessed like tray, like little catch-all trays you stick by the door and throw your keys in and stuff. So I was engraving one of those and got it all centered, laid out, and engraved it. And the job finished. Went back home, and it started dragging the tray with it. And the tray was actually, the corner of it was dragging through the honeycomb. So
oh yeah. But yeah, luckily not too much of that. And I think the power plug thing has settled down a little bit too. That was a hot topic for a while, but hopefully that's the only thing now. Is it looks like they sent the cords and they're the correct cord, but it has an orange tag on it that says 220 or 205 volts or whatever, and it's not. So that threw that threw somebody off, and I get that, but just ignore the sticker.
Amp. I say it says 20 amp, but I'm sitting here looking at it. Let me look and see if it says 220.
Look and see. I thought it said 205, like for 205 volt. Maybe it does say 20 amp. Oh, okay. April's got a picture of it there. Okay, good deal. Never mind. I read that wrong in that picture that I saw the other one, so we're good.
I do have a question about it. So when my electrician came, we ended up moving it into the room instead of the garage because it's too hot. I couldn't be out there. So my question is, when the electrician did my plugs, he did like regular plugs. So I'm still going to have to use the adapter, right? Because obviously I can't plug this into that plug.
No, if he did regular plugs, that's a 15 amp circuit, not a 20 amp dedicated circuit.
He said he did 20 because I told him I needed 220, and he read on the back of the thing.
If he put NEMA 515R outlets in there like you describe on a 20 amp circuit, they need to pull his license.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow. Oh my
So
God.
the reason you have the horizontal bit there is so you cannot plug a 20 amp plug into a 15 amp receptacle because it'll draw more current and burn your house down.
Go look at if you had a dedicated line, go look at your breaker box and see what breaker he put in for that. That'd be one way, but then that also depends if he ran the correct wire or not.
Yeah.
Your breaker,
Get
even
after,
if you use 12 or 10, why put a 15 unless he didn't have a 20 amp outlet and said, I'll just throw this in here. But
Yep.
still, he should have
Well,
his license
the
taken away.
reason, yeah, I think the reason is because I showed him that plug and he looked at it and he's like, oh, it doesn't have the little slot to the side. And I was like, yeah. And so I wonder if that's why he did that.
Should still never done it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he should follow NEMA. He should follow electric code no matter what, not what plug you have in your hand. So
Yeah, that's your license.
yeah. So
Wow. Okay.
April, if the machine, right, the load is going to attempt to draw 20 amps, it's going to pull it from your source, through your panel, through your breaker, through your wire, through your receptacle. If everything is not rated for 20 amps, whatever your weakest link is will fail. Now, ideally, in that situation, your weakest link by design is your breaker, and your breaker trips and breaks the circuit safely. That's how it works. If your receptacle in the wall is the weakest link, that could fail. If your wire is the weakest link, that could fail.
Wow. Okay.
now here's the thing. If he did put a 20 amp breaker in there for it, and he did run at least 12 gauge, depending on the wire length, but I think 12, and all he did was put that 15 amp outlet on there, then you can replace that with a 20 amp.
That's an easy fix.
5 minute. Yeah, it's a 5 minute job there, and they cost about $3 to $10 depending on the brand and store.
As Jeremy said, if all those other conditions are met too, and they are within the 20 amp specification, so it may not be as big of a deal as you think it might be. It might be just that he put that wrong plug on, and that's it. So, and that will be a fix.
Yep. And then the other thing is, in reality, right, you're going to struggle to draw 20 amps through the circuit, right, especially, depending on what you've got and how you hook it up. So if you've got a separate compressor, right, you're not pulling the compressor load through that line, right? If you've got a separate fan and you've got it plugged into the wall, or you've got, so your chiller is plugged in separate, right? Then you split that load up. For me, I run a separate compressor, so the compressor's not even on the circuit with the laser.
And you've got a Nova 35. Is it an 80 watt or a 100 watt?
100.
Okay, yeah, that definitely needs to be a 20. But because
it
it's going to pull close to 20 when it's under full load, according to what some of the specifications say.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I can help you with that. You can shoot us an email and send us pictures of your box, or if you need us to talk to the electrician or a different one, or whatever.
Or a supervisor,
a different
the
one.
inspector.
Well, the guy, it's funny because the guy, he's done all of our electrical work for us because we built our house and we had some things updated. And I had him put a chandelier in when he came, and he specifically asked me about the plug, and I showed him that one because I told him that they had sent me the wrong one, but I got this adapter. I don't know why.
It could have just gotten lost in translation.
Yeah.
So, and if you want, if you do want to get back with him, I'm, depending on what he was told to do, I'm not sure exactly, but I can help clarify anything. If he wants to give me a call or shoot an email, I'll be glad to talk and let him know what our requirements are. That way he can work off that instead of working off, the plug, and that way he'll know exactly what is recommended for that system.
Okay.
And to answer,
I'll probably get a different one, a different guy.
To answer your question, Brian, it just says 20 amp on it, both sides of on the orange tag.
Perfect. Good. That's one less thing I have to worry about. All right, I read that wrong. So, okay. Well, yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. And a good way to pick your next one is have him look at the circuit and say, "Do you see anything wrong here?" And if he picks it out that you've got the wrong outlet, you hire him. So. Anybody else got anything?
Just trying to think if I can make up something.
I've tried that before. It doesn't work. It's better just to sit here.
Anything in the resources about the low and high air adjustment? My knob's
Yeah,
got
a little bit. Yeah. Now, as far as the adjustments on the machine, is that what you mean as far as adjusting the pressures?
making sure I got the right pressures. Yeah.
Yeah, of course, it's hard to, you have to kind of guess what's going on. If you're using a stock air pump, of course, I always turn the high side all the way up, and just leave it wide open.
Yeah, I did
Um,
that.
on the low side, it's better to have more than not enough, at least starting off. At least you'll protect your lens. You may not get the resultant output that you want because you can't adjust your contrast and various, how much smoke and stuff is left over depending on how you adjust it, but they don't come set from the factory. And I just wanted to clarify that for some people, just in case. There's no rhyme or reason to what they're set at. They test them at the factory, but they may have them turned all the way off and that kind of thing. So it's a good idea to check your air pressures and make sure that they're different and functioning properly and adjustable and all that stuff before you go to town on it, or otherwise you may see that you're not getting any airflow. So, but there are a few videos on that and how to select it in Lightburn, as well as some sequencing issues with USB. If you use start, how it can invert the trigger so high will come on when low is supposed to, and vice versa. That's eliminated if you use send, and it's usually eliminated if you go Ethernet, as long as you're not using a USB dongle.
And the way, Brian, to fix that issue, right? I know they put it in one of the recent versions of Lightburn. Is there's a way to turn off the start command in your settings to where you can't accidentally click start, and you always have to either send or shift send.
Yeah, I've seen that in there where you can turn that button off, and I'm like, that's neat.
I turned it off. It doesn't. It not only turn it off, it removes it from the little laser panel, so there's not even a button to click anymore.
Yeah.
Oh, last week, remember how I said I couldn't get my low air low enough? It was I couldn't. It was like basically I just backed it out and I flipped it 2 or 3 times with my finger, and then it worked. So I don't know if there was just a burr down in there or something.
Probably something down in the seat. Yeah.
Yeah. As soon as I backed it out, and I just did an old trick that I used to do on other things, and just flip it a couple times really hard and
sometimes
seated it back down.
That's all it takes. And yeah, those needle valves, I think they're aluminum, so you don't want to twist them all the way down as hard as you can either. You'll break the tip of the needle off in the seat probably, and then you won't ever get air again without replacing that valve. So also, for those of you messing with them, do them gently. And the stop nuts help too, because that shaft actually moves a little bit. You can wiggle them and notice a change in air pressure. Have you noticed that as it's going, you can wiggle? So
no, I haven't really tried that.
Yeah, they're not super precision. They get the job done. But I've knocked mine with a piece of material on my elbow or something, it changed the air pressure a little bit.
So Thomas, in terms of setting it up, what I did, and I find myself very, very rarely adjusting it on the high side, right? I use it just for cutting, max air pressure, and depending on how thick of something I'm cutting, if I'm trying to cut 3/4 inch material, right, my high side's wide open, and I might actually bump my regulator up and push a little more PSI to the machine, which is good because they've changed the max settings or recommending new max settings, so that's good. But and I leave the high side wide open, and then the low side I dialed all the way down, right, to where it was no airflow, backed it off just enough to where you get a good positive flow coming out of the nozzle. And then if when I go to cut, if I'm just doing an engrave or something, if I have a suitable contrast there, then I leave it. If not, then I might play with the air a little bit. And the only time I absolutely have to play with air if you're playing with acrylic, just to where different thicknesses of acrylic, you want to keep just enough air to keep it clear, but not to blow around the molten acrylic because it makes that frosted edge.
I haven't gotten there yet. I've done wood and working on stone. I have like unlimited supply of countertop stone. So that's today's project when I'm done. Thank you, though. That's great. That's helpful. I wasn't quite sure how much to have coming out of there on the low end.
Yeah. And I've still got a few of those meters left, and I'm right. Oh yeah, let me show this. Let me turn the screen back on. I've started I'll probably have to go in the back end and see it because it's a draft. No, it's not a draft. Portal. I don't see it. SMC. There it goes. It finally showed up. I started this,
There you go.
and it's basically about the switches and the specifications and what you need to connect it and the difference between using a Y and a T. Some of the stuff is from the other documentation, but I've pretty much got it all laid out. There's, some details that need to be filled in, but if anybody wants to put one of those meters on, I think I've got enough information here that you could at least get it installed now. And I'm going to keep expanding on that. And I've got, I think, 5 of those left. The cheapest I found them, other than, well, they're about what I've got. I think I'm asking 70 plus $10 shipping on mine. So it ends up being the same price as getting them direct from the distributor. But I think I've got about 5 left. If anybody's ever interested in one.
I'll buy it
Yeah, I
now.
would-
How do you want to get paid?
Soon, so that'd be cool.
Let's see.
Want to get that
Pink.
switch and everything dialed in before I start adding peripherals on.
Right. Yeah, that's a good idea. Let's see if I've got one. Yeah, there we go. Here's a link. Now, contact me before y'all hit that link, because if I run out and you send me your money, I'm not going to send it back. All sales are final. I'm just kidding. It'll just be a pain. I wouldn't do that to you. So
Cool.
let me make sure how many I've got, if I can find them. Well, Jeremy's going to get one, so I'm going to leave that one out. I got 1, 2, 3. I got 4 left after that. So,
I'd like one, Brian.
okay, I'll put one of those to the
3.
side. I got 3 left. So
Yeah, I'm
All
gonna
right,
take
come
one
on.
too. I'll get on paper.
2.
I'll pay you.
Come
I
on.
got 2 left. What is
All
this,
right.
eBay? Oh,
Yeah, only get.
Start an auction here.
Price just went up due to high supply, low demand.
all right. So, and they are
Or
original.
high demand, low supply.
I just figured, and I might go get some more of these because it'll be a whole lot more convenient. Because the ones that you get on Amazon, 90% of them are for vacuum, and they don't work very well.
Right. That's good.
All right, cool. I'll get those boxed up and put them out first thing in the morning.
How do you want
Thank you.
payment?
Huh?
How do you want payment? Payment.
Oh, it doesn't really matter. I put a link in there on the thing.
I'm
and
sure he
you can
prefers
check out
cash.
that way. It doesn't matter to me. I'm just going to buy more meters with it. So it's all going to go back into the thing probably. I might get 20 of them this time and see if I can get a little bit better deal on them, get a better price on them. So then I can knock them down a little bit. But
Yeah.
Oh, Brian, I just got a notification. Is that 5 o'clock with you or Chris?
that would probably be with Chris. Let me look.
Okay. I didn't know if I should still do it to let you guys try to play with it or just say screw it.
On the, let me see. Let me look it up. Where'd it go? Yeah, I think that's Chris,
There.
which either way, all good. I'm watching the tickets too. So if you want to keep it, we can keep it. So it'll be all good.
It's strictly going to be on you guys because I tried everything, and I was pretty much the same impression that you was with it.
Yeah, but we'll give it one more shot and see, and then if not, we'll go to Plan B.
Yeah, Rebecca contacted me.
Did she?
You're going to end up with it.
The camera? Okay.
Yeah.
I'll test it. I'll keep them all here. I'll pull the lenses off and I'll Frankenstein more cameras out of them. Usually the sensors go bad or the connector. So, but having the lenses is good because the modules are all the same. The sensor boards are actually identical. The only thing different is the lenses. So
Yeah, because this comes up as a 4K.
Yeah, and it's okay to do that. I talked with Lightburn. they missed putting the metadata in some of these cameras because we had to switch to the 120 on and the 85 or the 95.
95.
Yeah, as opposed to the other ones, which doesn't really make any difference as far as most people are concerned. It's just an internal thing. But that we did notice, that they weren't showing up as Lightburn cameras, but they still function. But of course, yours is a little bit different story, so we'll get that figured out.
That's why I didn't know if you guys wanted to waste your time, or I figured, well, hell, if it does work.
And wait until the camera gets yours will probably be on back order, right? Did she say she was going to send you one?
She said, yeah, to like next year.
Oh, well, I just
No,
put
she
in.
didn't say when. She said it's back ordered.
Okay, well, Jason Oz has a makerspace, a fest to go to, a 3D print fest MakerBot thing somewhere in the Midwest. So he said he was going to get my latest order of cameras out before he went off to that deal for the weekend. So I'm hoping that we'll have those cameras in Texas, next week, the beginning of next week, and they can start dispatching some.
It's not a huge deal. She wanted me to send it back to you, and I just did if you guys wanted to test it in case I did miss something. But 2 PCs and my webcam works on it, but that won't.
Yeah, I'm sure it's camera, and I'll get it back anyway. We'll give you a label, a prepaid label to get it back because
I've already got that.
Okay, yeah, but yeah, I'll take it and I'll take a look at it, and I'm sure it's probably toast, but I'll get the lens off of it anyway.
Yeah, I'd like to know what was actually the deal with it, because after spending an entire day trying to do everything I know to do.
Yeah, probably just a bad chip or something. So, let's see, does anybody else have any questions or comments or anything?
I have a question. Okay, so I don't know if you can see this, but my husband is like, what the hell is going on? He's so pissed off right now. So this is what he installed. Can you see that? There's two 20s right there. Yep. So that's correct, right?
Did he install both of those? They're not bound.
No,
so did he put two? Did he say he was going to put two dedicated 20 amp outlets?
Yeah, it's two.
Yeah, because I told him I eventually wanted to get an external compressor, and so I wanted to do two external.
Yeah.
Whatever those things are called.
Yeah. It sounds like the guy did it all right. It sounds like his only snafu was putting that wrong plug in there, because it's a 20 amp plug ought to go with that 20 amp circuit, not a 15 amp plug. So I think that's the only thing. Now, technically what he did, restricting it to 15, isn't necessarily a bad thing. On a 20, it can handle it. You see what I mean? But your machine needs 20, so you need the one that's got that horizontal plug. So you'll need the 20 amp outlet. So it looks like you just have to replace the outlets.
Now, did he do it on both outlets or just the one you told him about with the laser?
He put it on both.
Oh,
okay. So he put, it's not as bad to put a 15 outlet on a 20 amp circuit as it would be to put a 20 amp outlet on a 15 amp circuit. You see what I mean? The danger's not there, but it's still not up to code. He never should have done that anyway. So, because the 20 amp outlets will accept a 15 amp plug and a 20 amp plug either.
Okay.
So it's good for both worlds.
Okay.
Yeah. So the good news is you shouldn't be able to draw more current through it because you can't plug the plug into it, right? Yeah. And that's the reason the plugs are keyed that way, right? Now just don't let them go make you any plugs.
Now, is it going to hurt if I use it, or should I wait until I can get them back out here?
You can use it. That adapter's not the greatest thing in the world, but go ahead and use it until he gets there. As long as you've got a 20 amp there. Can you verify the wire gauge of the Romex?
I don't know how to do that. That's in the wall, right?
Yeah, and you'd have to take the panel off. You'd have to take the cover off the panel probably to see it. Don't do that if you're not comfortable. But I
just texted him, so he said he can come and switch it out. He said your adapter would look fine, but I'll definitely come and switch it out. I went by your adapter, so that's what he did.
Gotcha.
He more likely ran everything good except for the plug.
Yeah. That's it. So I'd have him put the 20 amp, the correct 20 amp, 110 volt outlets in there, and then you'll be good to go.
Okay. Okay, good.
Well, cool.
At least he was being honest about it and being quick about.
Yeah, and the way he did it, like I said, it isn't a safety thing like it would be if it had gone the other way. But the whole reason you don't interchange things is so stuff like this doesn't happen, because 5 years from now, somebody might not know what's going on, you know. So it's good to keep standard. But yeah, it sounds like you won't have any trouble getting that going. But I'd say it'd be okay to use it for just the next little bit. But if he's going to come out this afternoon, it may be best just to wait, let him swap them real quick.
Brian, I want to. I've got two people close by with machines that I've got, Jeremy Davis and then Michael Garrett. Michael actually came up with me to help me work things out. Is there a list of people who would be willing to communicate back and forth that would have, like, I'm fortunate to find two people who have the same machine. Is there a list that could come out where we could call somebody, or I know that like Thomas is starting and Joe's starting, it would be nice if they had somebody that had comparable machines to relate to close by.
Yeah. We don't keep up a database like that. We've got those demo partners that we're not really using a lot right now because that kind of got squished during COVID and we haven't really brought it back. But as far as setting up that, I think that would be a little bit beyond, that'd be kind of hard to manage. What people are doing right now is just going on the Facebook groups and saying, hey, I'm in so-and-so. Is there anybody close, that would, and I think that's honestly the best way to handle it, to get out to the most reach of people. Even if somebody gives me their name and says, hey, I don't mind helping a fella out, every time we call him, he may feel obligated, even if he really doesn't have time or something like that. So I don't want to put people in a position like that. But everybody's, if they are close enough, everybody's always willing to help. So it tends to work out decent that way.
I know you got me in touch with Michael Garrett, and we're just super friends. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he is on the demo partner thing, and that's why I put his name out there to begin with. But we've only got about 16 people, and they're scattered all over. They're not, it's not super comprehensive. But we've kind of suspended that thing for now, just for the moment, until we can get it going. But yeah, the best way is probably just to reach out and say, hey, I'm in Texas, help me. And then you'll probably get 20 people wanting to help, usually. So.
Brian, do I have to call into Chris, or do I just have to hit the email?
You can reply to that email that scheduling thing was sent up to, and we both watch it, so we're all in the system together. But yeah, you can just reply to that thing and tell us whatever you want to do.
I saw that, Jen.
I missed it.
My 4-year-old.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't want to miss that. What did I miss?
I went to give him a kiss, and he stuck his tongue out at me.
Oh, that's great. That is awesome.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's good as the guy that got his head licked by the dog, though.
Oh, that was awesome. That was great. That was super duper. I enjoyed that a lot because my dog does that to me. And my grandson hit me in my privates yesterday. So I have a 2-year-old running around here too. So
what is it with little kids and thinking that's the best thing in the world?
That's the right height.
It is.
Yeah, I guess so.
So
I used to have a little cousin that would punch and run. It was his favorite thing to do.
Hey Brian, I just bought one of those, so you should see the PayPal come through.
I guess I better get out of here so I can get to Chris.
And when it comes through, you'll see it as David Bailey. I'm one of those guys that goes by my middle name, and
gotcha.
It tends to confuse people. So
got it. Cool. All right, I'll send that out, and we're good to go. Well, oh yeah, it's 4:00. Wow, I'm gonna get the whole hour, and it was good. That was super. This was a good session. So.
It still ain't as good as that session you had you didn't record.
Well, we don't know that though, do we? Because we didn't record it.
Yeah. No, there was a few of us that were on it. That was a good one.
And I saw your note, Thomas, and yeah, I'll send you a self-addressed. I'll send you a prepaid label, and we'll take care of that. I appreciate it.
Cool. Thanks, man.
So, all right. Well, I guess I'll jump off here. If you guys need me, just email support@thunderlaserusa.com or give us a ring. We usually answer the phone. It may take a little bit. Email is usually easier, but we're here if you need us.
Thanks
all
for all the help.
Take care.
All right. Thanks.